As managers, you need to solve problems. And in order to be an effective problem solver, you need to be sure you understand the problem that you're solving and what's important to the people who are involved in the conflict or in a problem. So in this module, we're going to talk about an approach to problem solving called interest-based problem solving, which is based on the theory of interest-based negotiation, which is essentially distinguishing between what people say they want and what they really need to feel satisfied and come up with long-term solutions. So to start us off, I'm going to start with a very basic example that illustrates interest-based negotiation. And this example comes from a seminal work called Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury. So if any of you have read this book, I'm going to ask that you not give away the answer to this example so that we can see others work through it, and then we'll talk about it. So I want you to imagine that you are a parent. Okay, maybe many of you are, but you're a parent or you're an adult, and there are two children in the room, and they're fighting over an orange. There's only one orange. And both children say, I want the orange. What are some ways you might go about solving this problem? Typically, as a trainer, you're going to hear responses like, I would cut the orange in half, I would introduce a new piece of fruit, I would eat the orange myself, I would have them fight over it, I would distract them and have them use it as a game. All of these are valid answers. Oftentimes, somebody in the group will say, I would ask them why. If somebody says that, it's a good indication that you should move to the next piece and reveal the answer. If nobody says that, after you've gotten a bunch of suggestions, then you introduce the answer. So you have options as a trainer depending on what people say. So let's imagine in this example that none of the participants have given the response of saying, I would ask the children why they want it. Okay, so those are all great options. In the book, what happens is this parent actually asks a question. They say to the children, why do you want this orange? And what they learn is that one child wants the outside of the orange rind, to bake a cake. And the other child wants the inside of the orange to make juice. So they actually have very different needs and desires in terms of why they both want the orange. And what the parent realizes is there is a way to solve this problem that's going to satisfy everybody's needs, but they needed to ask that critical question, why do you want the orange? So many of the solutions that or suggestions that you came up with were really creative and really great, but they wouldn't have actually met these children's needs and satisfied them both in a way that would have left them feeling like they got what they want and they could end their fight. Okay? And what this example does is it, in a very basic and simplistic way, it illustrates the concept of positions, what people say they want, and interests. What's motivating somebody to say they need or want something? So let's take a look here at the distinctions between positions and interests. So on the left-hand side, we have positions. As I said, this is what somebody says they want or need. Interestingly, these are often framed in very basic ways, right? I need something, I want something. When you hear those kind of phrases from people, it's a good indication that they're stating a position. Oftentimes, people state positions as their proposed solutions. So when a child says, I want the orange, that's their way of solving the dispute that's happening between them, right? We're fighting over this orange. How am I going to solve it? Give me the orange, okay? I want it, that's my position, give it to me. That could be another position. I want it, or I should have it, he should give it to me. All of these are statements of positions, what they say they want or need or what they think should happen. Oftentimes, these are very, very concrete. And so people are explicit about them. They're often happen at the very beginning when somebody comes to you and they make a demand. All of those could be positions. Interests, on the other hand, which we have on the right-hand column, these are motivating people to say they want or need something, but they may not be explicitly stated. And so somebody could come to you on your team and say, I want a raise. I deserve a raise. Okay? It's a statement of what they think should happen, but they're not necessarily telling you all of the reasons that are motivating them to say they want this raise. Okay? So what we need to do over time is explore those interests, and we'll talk later about how you do that. So interests are the reasons why somebody says they need or want something. They may be explicit or implicitly stated. Okay, so you should expect that if somebody comes to you and makes a demand, it's very possible that they won't tell you why they're making that demand, what's underneath that. But you may have people who do. So you can hear somebody explicitly state a position and explicitly state an interest. They can also be concrete or abstract. So for instance, you may have somebody who's saying, I demand a raise. Okay, I want you to increase my salary. That's very concrete as a position. And what might be motivating them to say that, underneath that, could be that they have a real financial need. Perhaps they're buying a new house, or they're trying to send their child to a new school, right? There may be a need that they have in a concrete way to have more stronger finances, which is fairly concrete. You may also have somebody come to you and say, I demand a raise, or I deserve a raise. And what you find through the process of having a conversation about why they're saying this is, in fact, what they're really looking for is acknowledgement. I want a way for the organization to demonstrate that you acknowledge all that I've brought to this team. And a raise is one way for you to acknowledge that. So acknowledgement could be motivating somebody to demand a raise, and that's a much less concrete motivation. So if I want acknowledgement, that's fairly abstract. So it could be, I need more money, I need to expand my financial security, fairly concrete, or I'm looking for acknowledgement. What's important to be aware of here is that when you understand people's interests and what's motivating them to say they want or need something, and you have a clear understanding of what that is, you are in a much better position as a manager to help them solve that problem or get them what they need, because it opens up a world of possibilities that may not be available when people narrowly define what they need. So if I have an employee who comes to me and says, Allison, I need a raise. You have to increase my salary. I'm going to respond to that, and I have the option to say, I'm sorry, we've made the budget for this year. We don't have any room in the budget to increase your salary. We can't do that. Now that leaves them walking away feeling like I didn't get what I wanted, and now, I'm in this difficult position. So we now have tension between us. I haven't been able to meet their need, and they don't feel satisfied. If, on the other hand, I have spent time understanding why they're coming to me to ask for a raise, and I discover that one issue is that they actually need more money because they have all of these other things happening in their lives that they need more money for. That's one option. An additional reason that might be motivating them is that they're looking for more acknowledgement. Another option may be that they're looking for more opportunities, and they don't know how to articulate that, so they're just saying, I want more money. And those things might feel really like two totally different things, and yet often we hear people say things like, I want this or I need this, and it's very different from what they actually need when you do a deep dig and you really look for what's motivating them. So once I understand that my team member is also looking for acknowledgement, I may not be able to increase their salary, but I may be able to find opportunities to recognize them and acknowledge them. And if I can satisfy a piece of that, that often means that that person has a higher satisfaction level, our relationship is stronger, and I'm able to retain my team member. Even though I didn't satisfy all of their needs, I satisfied a piece of it because I understood all of the aspects of that position. We often use the metaphor of an iceberg to describe positions and interests. Because when we talk about positions and interests, what we recognize is that positions are typically at the very top. They're just the top of the iceberg. So when someone comes to us and they say, I have a problem. If we think about a problem being represented by a whole iceberg, the position is just the top of that. okay? I want this or I need this. And it's our responsibility to help people dig underneath the surface to really understand what's motivating them to have that position. Because if as managers, we respond only to this piece up here, right? We're responding to about 10% of what's really going on in a problem. We need to spend time focusing on this whole other area, which is what we call interests, in order to ensure that we're solving the whole problem. So it's not a good use of your time as a manager to spend all of your energy investing in about 10% of the problem. You want to be focused on the 90%. And when you focus on interests, you're focusing on that 90%. So you need to go deeper and really explore interests. And we're going to talk in the next module about how you use a technique called inquiry to really understand and uncover what people's interests are. So as I've said, right, these are some of the reasons that we use interest-based problem solving. It's also a really useful technique in helping people get engaged in the process of solving their own problems. So if you are very quick as a manager to just problem solve for people, and you don't spend time helping people really understand and think about their own motivations for coming to you and asking for something or demanding something, then you are being highly directive in some cases, right? Very top down, we say, in solving those problems. And what that means is that often your staff members won't be invested in the solution you've come up with because they didn't come up with it themselves. So we know that when people are involved in the process of crafting their own solutions or kind of collaboratively coming up with solutions that will meet their needs, they're much more invested in following through on those solutions. And that's what you want as a manager. You want your people to be invested in the solutions that they're coming up with so that they implement them and they don't keep coming back to you to solve those problems. We also know that this approach, spending time really understanding what's important to people and what's motivating them to take a position or make a demand, increases your ability to satisfy their needs and helps them as a result feel more trust, feel that you are more legitimate as a manager because you really get how to help people address their needs and have them feel satisfied. So there's a huge payoff in terms of retention and trust building on your team when you use this approach. Another important aspect of using this is it will help you understand and articulate why you can't meet someone's needs at times. So for instance, in the example that I gave, where somebody comes to me and says, Allison, I want a raise. If I don't spend time really asking them questions and understanding what's important to them, and I only respond by saying, I'm sorry, we've made the budget, we can't accommodate your request, what that often means is people feel like I haven't spent time listening and haven't spent time investing. If instead I spend that time focused on them, then if I still need to say no, I can say things like, I understand that for you, you are trying to pay off your loans, or you're getting a new house, or your child is, going to a new school and you need that money. And that's where, that's why you're coming to me and asking for that. And I understand that, and that's a difficult position to be in. Unfortunately, the budget is what it is, and you can explain what the budget looks like if possible, but it gives you an opportunity to acknowledge where they're coming from and help them feel like you're not just dismissing what they're saying, you're giving them a clear and logical response to why you may not be able to meet their needs, and you've created an opportunity to see whether there are other needs you could meet. And again, that helps with that trust building. So as trainers, the next thing you're going to do is ask people to work on a worksheet that helps distinguish between positions and interests. And that's the next piece of this.